In this video, I'm going to share with you why Aubrey Marcus is the next Ghengis Khan. Why this relationship debacle with Aubrey Marcus, Vailana Marcus, and Alana Beale may just be the most important thing that has ever happened in our reality, and why, if you watch to the end of this video, you will realize and understand why Aubrey Marcus needs to have 100 children with 10 different women so that he can fulfill his God-given mission on this planet, self-actualize himself, and through his tribe of conscious creator offspring, he alone, his clan of 100 Marcuses, like Marcus Aurelius, no God complex involved. Why that tribe of 100 Marcuses are going to help us defeat the sentient AI overlords that are coming for our job, our children, and for the kingdom of God itself. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Thor Motu Dyrensborg. This is the Thorganic experience, and let's jump right into the video. Whoopah! So today we're going to talk about the Aubrey Marcus controversy, everything going on in that world. Aubrey Marcus, his wife, Vailana Marcus, their new lover, Alana Beale, and their holy trinity of relation, of love, their love puddle of love in their beautiful hierarchical non-monogamous relationship. Ooh, juicy topic of conversation today. Juicy topic indeed. And normally I wouldn't talk about someone else's relationship. It's not my place. Love and respect to everybody and everyone's soul path. I'm gonna get this toothpick out of here. This is a serious video. Serious, guys. It's serious. These spiritual influencers and thought leaders be out here doing whatever they want to do, and then they be shooting these podcasts talking about their experiences, being as honest and transparent as they can be, letting it all out there, naked, nude, exposed for the world to see. There's something admirable about that, I gotta say. There's something beautiful about that. So we have to love and respect these people, because regardless of their current choices on how they want to structure their relationship dynamic, how they want to live their life as free conscious beings, as beings that are living life to the fullest, experiencing the fullness of what life really has to offer, right? We're all in this place in our collective consciousness around, just figuring out what the heck is going on, man. What's actually going on here? What the flippity fluck is actually going on? Does anybody really know what's going on? Does Aubrey Marcus know what's going on? Does Vailana know what's going on? Does anybody really understand what the fruck is going on right now? I mean, I think we got to start there if we're going to talk about this, because I don't know. That's a lot to put on a person, It's like, man, I think they're trying. I think they're doing the best they can with the tools and resources they have and their direct connection to God. And you got to give credit where credit's due, Sometimes you hear the voice of God and God just tells you to go and impregnate 2 women at the same time. 2 different women, Sometimes God be acting like that, right? Sometimes God be telling you, you gotta just go and make babies with these 2 women. You gotta impregnate these 2 women. You got to spread your seed. And you got to share the love, man. You got to share the love. It's all love, baby. It's all love, right? It's all love. We got to share the love. That's what God wants us to do. That's what's in our highest calling on this planet, is to impregnate 2 women at once. I mean, what else is there to do in this world? What else is there to do but impregnate 2 women at once? I don't know, man. Go to Burning Man again for the 11th time. Do another ayahuasca ceremony. Think about how maybe your relationship with your wife isn't enough, so you got to keep trying to do more and get more and become something more, or reach some other level of consciousness, or get more woke, or do more things, or build more things, because more is always better, right? Isn't more always better? Isn't that why we created AI? I don't want to go there right now. But isn't more always better? I mean, why not have 2 wives? 2. You know, because 2 is better than 1, right? You can have 2. If you can have 1, might as well have 2. Why not have 3, 4, 5? I think Aubrey Marcus should have 5 wives. He should have 5 wives. He should have a child with every single one of them. And he should love them all from the overflow of his divine heart, of his spiritual warrior heart, man. You know, this guy's a powerful dude. He's got a lot of mana, right? He's got a lot of power. And, you know, I mean, Ghengis Khan impregnated like 3,000 women, right? He had like 3,000 kids with 3,000 women, or maybe less. Maybe some of them had 2, 3. I don't know. I don't really know the story of Ghengis Khan, but if Ghengis Khan, you know, obviously God told him to impregnate 3,000 women. I mean, that was a direct, clear guidance from God. You don't become Ghengis Khan by not listening to some highest power. I mean, you know, the world works in mysterious ways. We don't know why people do the things that they do. Sometimes they might be listening to God, and it might not really be God. You know, it might be something else. But one thing to think about is maybe it is God, because to some degree it is God, right? It has to be God. Of course it is. It's all God. It's all God. I mean, we can deduce it back down to just oneness, but it isn't all God, is it? It can't be all God. If we're just going to stay at the core fundamental oneness thoughts, then we don't get anywhere, because there's no way to orient ourselves in the world if it's all deduced to singularity. So in order to create deduction, we must create polarity, right? So we must work within the realms of language and the dimension of polarity, which is life itself. Yin and yang, black and white, up and down, right or wrong. And so essentially, for somebody who has an orientation to religiosity, to spirituality, to consciousness, essentially that falls under the Christian principle of morality, essentially. And that place of morality, you know, someone like Jordan Peterson, I was watching his content the other day, his video on Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists, and how he defended his point that essentially atheists are really Christians. They just don't know or think they are or accept that they are. And his standpoint is essentially that God and following God, right? Following our higher self, our higher calling, looking up. You know, Big Sean always says, I look up, right? And Big Sean looks up because when you look up, you look to God, you look to the Father, and you call upon the highest possible timeline for your life. That is what it means to essentially be a Christian on a fundamental level, is to pull yourself up into your highest timeline. But the thing that separates a Christian from a narcissist is the narcissist will put their highest timeline above and superseding to everyone else, above other people. And this is the antithesis of what it means to be a Christian, because the fundamental principle of Christianity is service. And it means to serve. It means to give your life to the Father. So you're offering up your life. You're giving your life to God. And in other words, you're giving your life to the highest calling that you can channel in a way that it is in the most service, devotion, and giving to the highest good of all. Of all, because you're in service to the all. You're in service to God. And that is why true Christians, they live in service. They live to give, right? To give. And this is also in relation to the king archetype. So, when we ask ourselves what is right or wrong and what is morality, what is moral and just, then we have to understand that that is the baseline of what we're talking about. What we're talking about is orienting ourselves in this reality in a way that is righteous, in a way that is just, in a way that shoots us up into our highest timeline so that we're overflowing with God's love. And as a byproduct of that, we're lifting up everyone around us. We're lifting up everyone around us spiritually, energetically, with our love, with our presence, with our grace, so that the wellspring of God, the wellspring of Spirit, that cup that is so fulleth of pure divine crystalline light and water, light water, same thing, is Kangen water maybe. This pure divine light is overflowing from us, so much so that it pours into the cups of all those around us. And in doing so, it lifts up all around us. All people around us get lifted up into their highest timeline, into their divine potential. And that is what we're truly here to do. That is what it truly means to be a Christian. And that is what, underneath everybody's spiritual talk, that's what it means to truly be spiritual. That's the whole point of the show. And so when we fall into the illusion of doing anything just for self and not for other, we fall into traps of fractals of narcissism. Just as Lucifer was God's, in the story of Lucifer was God's greatest angel. Lucifer was God's favorite angel. He was number one. He was top angel. He was like Aubrey Marcus. And Lucifer's arc, essentially how Lucifer went from being God's best angel to becoming the devil, right? The arc of life itself. In the beginning, there was one, right? God wanted to experience itself. So God fractaled into everything else, including darkness. Thus came the second day of creation. In the beginning, there was the first day and there was just God. All there is one. All there is love. And then God experienced itself by moving to the second day of creation, which created night, day and night, polarity, yin and yang, black and white, masculine and feminine, right? And the reason why Lucifer became the devil was because Lucifer became self-aggrandizing. Lucifer became attached to him being the best. He became narcissistic. He became obsessed with himself, right? And so Lucifer, in his obsession with himself, thinking, I'm the best angel, I'm God's chosen one, I am, essentially the best, I am God, I'm here to do this purpose, right? This purpose that is in one's self-interest and not in God's highest interest. That's the distinction there. And so when Aubrey Marcus says that God told him, well, he said the goddess Isis, but same thing, right? He said Spirit told him to impregnate, that he needs to impregnate these two women. It's a very interesting thing to have channeled through you. I mean, it's really interesting, specifically the word need. The word need I find very fascinating because the word need implies that it's God's will. It's not just that is a higher timeline that he can experience, and not just him, of course, right? Because that would be some very narcissistic things to say if you just said something along the lines of, oh yeah, God told me that I need to impregnate these women, so I'm gonna go ahead and impregnate these women, because it's just a given that these two women want to be impregnated by me, right? I mean, I'm Aubrey Marcus. Why would any woman not want to be impregnated by me? I mean, I'm the divine masculine king of the conscious spiritual zeitgeist, right? I mean, I don't know why he would think that way. I don't know. I'm not Aubrey Marcus. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what my guidance and compass to spirit is, but I think it's definitely something to consider, is that in the highest good of Vailana and Alana? Is that in their highest good? Yeah, I mean, that's subject to their highest guidance, right? I think if Vailana and Alana, they both sat with themselves, in ceremony, in sovereignty, they prayed, they meditated on all of this, which I almost guarantee that they did, because these people are real people. I mean, they're not bullshitting everybody, right? They're not just going with the wind. They have some sense of grounding. They have a solid sense of spirituality. These are some of the highest quality human beings that we have collectively on our planet right now. These are people that are extremely powerful. These are people that are extremely tapped in, that have done tons of work on themselves, that have invested tons of money and resources with themselves, and are also people who are surrounding themselves directly with some of the highest quality spiritual beings on this planet. People like Dr. Joe Dispenza, people like Reverend Michael Beckwith, people like Matthias Di Stefanos, right? Who Aubrey Marcus even says in the interview that Matthias was literally channeling an activation while he heard the voice of Isis. And the voice of Isis, the spirit of Isis, told him that he needs to impregnate these two women. And that's actually a really beautiful thing to say. I mean, it's a really beautiful idea, because it's actually not coming from patriarchy, if you really think about it. I mean, you have to see this from the context of believing in magic. I mean, that's really the only way to see this here. You can't just look at this as a podcast, right? You can't just look at this as just people having a conversation. This is these people live in dynamic spiritual realms of consciousness, okay? If you've never experienced what those dynamic spiritual realms of consciousness are, then you don't really fully understand what's going on with them and with their consciousness. I mean, if you've never done ayahuasca, for example, then Aubrey Marcus explaining to you what ayahuasca is like you're only going to be able to relate to that from your direct experience of reality. And so if you've never experienced doing ayahuasca, then you're only getting maybe 50% of what's being communicated. The other 50% is just completely blank. It's completely blank to you because you can only relate to life from where you are, right? And if you want to relate to life from a different place, then you just have to walk into that experience. It's the same reason why, people that have never experienced wealth and abundance, they don't know what that feels like, and that's why it becomes challenging. That's why people have abundance blocks. That's why because they don't have the experience to attune themselves to a vibrational frequency that is in alignment with wealth and abundance and prosperity. And if you are somebody who's ever experienced abundance blocks, if you're somebody who wants to attract more abundance into your life, then click the description in the link down below. I help people to become their higher self by helping them to unravel their abundance blocks, open their abundance portal, and allow them to become the highest version of themselves. And I would love to support you on your journey as well. So click the link in the description down below. But the point of the matter that I'm trying to make here is that, people just really don't understand where they're coming from because they don't know what it's like to be Aubrey Marcus. You don't know what it's like to be Vailana Marcus, and you don't know what it's like to be Alana Beal. Now, Aubrey's saying that he received direct connection from source, from spirit, from the goddess Isis herself in the Egyptian tomb of Isis, while Matthias Di Stefano, the freaking glorified, the chosen direct channel in the spiritual community zeitgeist, the chosen one, if he's channeling the freaking activation, brah, you gotta understand, like, they're sitting there in Egypt, okay? In Egypt, in the motherland of high consciousness, of a whole different realm of reality that, we can't even see anymore because we've come down so far in vibrational frequency. I mean, they think that they made the pyramids through some sort of technology, that sound waves, consciousness that we can't even access anymore because our vibrational bandwidth is just so not aligned with that level of frequency, right? So they're sitting there in the middle of this tomb. Matthias Di Stefano is freaking bringing down the activation. They're essentially in a vortex of consciousness. Did they take any psychedelics? I don't know. You probably don't even need psychedelics in this situation. So they're going through this vortex, this ceremony, this higher state of consciousness, whop, 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 like whipping through space and time. And then all of a sudden, the goddess Isis comes. And the goddess Isis presents herself to Aubrey Marcus. Have you ever seen the goddess Isis? It's freaking beautiful. I want to get a goddess Isis tattoo, completely unrelated to this topic. I always wanted to get this tattoo, but essentially the goddess Isis is the depiction of this goddess, this Egyptian goddess, and she's usually crouched down, sitting there, looking beautiful, but she's outstretched, and she has wings as arms. She has these beautiful feather wings as her arms, and they outstretch her much disproportionately to the actual body herself. It just looks like she's flying forever. That's pretty cool, right? What does that represent? I mean, I'd have to look it up right now. I don't know that off the top of my head necessarily, but what I can assume from the energetic output is that this goddess is radiant. This goddess is expansive. This goddess represents, being held by the divine in a way that's like, she got you, like the goddess Isis got you. Be free, my child. Express yourself freely, experience what life has to offer. So, Aubrey Marcus receiving a direct channel from the goddess Isis telling him to impregnate these two women. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. You can't hate on it too much, You can't hate on it too much. You can't get triggered by it too much, right? And let me explain why we can't get triggered by it too much. I think something important here to understand is that, okay, is divine union the only way to God? We have to ask ourselves that question. Is sacred, monogamous, divine union the only way to orient ourselves in this reality in order to shoot for our highest timeline, in order to be the highest versions of ourselves, in order to reach and touch God, right? Like the Adam picture. Boom. I also want that tattoo. I need to get more tattoos. I just have the seed of life on my hand. That's my favorite one. Yeah, so the question that we need to ask, right, is it the only way to achieve our highest timeline is in monogamous divine union, masculine and feminine in union, in one sacred container that's completely monogamous and exclusive from anyone else, right? Is that, in other terms of expression is like, is that the masculine's only way to be of highest good and highest devotion to the feminine? Because I think that part there is what is triggering for most people. I don't think it's the fact that Aubrey wants to impregnate 2 women at once. I don't think it's the fact that Aubrey wants to have multiple wives. I don't think it's I don't know if he actually said that. I don't think it has anything really to do with Aubrey Marcus at all. To the extent, I think what's triggering for most people is the fact that there is a perception in this podcast. There's a perception there's an opinion that can be drawn from this podcast that essentially presents Vailana in a state of disempowerment. And so I think what triggers a lot of people with this situation, this debacle, this relationship debacle that we're experiencing in our spiritual community zeitgeist right now, what people are triggered by is that there's a potential timeline where Vailana is not actually getting what she truly wants, what she truly deserves as a queen, as a divine feminine goddess, as a woman who deserves the best that life has to offer. And I think a lot of people feel like Aubrey is letting Vailana down. And a lot of people feel that Vailana might be gaslighting herself into thinking that this is what she really wants, when what she really wants is actually not that. And let me explain why that is a potential reality that's happening right now. It's a potential reality because, look, going back to what I said before, in all my jester energy here, right? But also serious. We're having a serious, unserious conversation, a reverent, irreverent spiritual conversation and dialogue here. Look, I'm so grateful that you're watching this with me. Wherever you are in your journey, may you be so blessed and highly favored. And may we all receive the relationship that we truly want and desire, the relationship that's going to support us in becoming the highest version of ourselves, the relationship that's going to fulfill us on all the levels. Like, we can really truly have it all in this lifetime. And for some people, that means having a divine union with one good woman and loving her to the best of your ability and the best of your capacity and giving her everything that you can. Like, loving her so much, like feeling so grateful that you came into this life to experience this one divine goddess. And you're there just like the Father said, just like Jesus said, right? You're there and you got her back, right? You're standing behind her, she's standing in front of you, your children are in front of her, and you're solid, right? You're solid right there, boom, whatever she needs, you got her. And because you got her so strong, right? Because you're so solid in your masculine energy and in your connection to God, that she gets to stand not on a hierarchical pedestal, but she gets to stand on the stage that you provide, and she gets to shine and blossom in her highest divine beauty, her God expression, her heart pouring and overflowing, and everything she touches turns into flowers. Everything she touches turns into the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen in your life. And that is the only fucking purpose that a man has to do on this planet. That's the only fucking purpose. Point blank, period, cuz. Point blank, period. That's why God put you on this earth. To give that to the feminine. To give that to your woman. And to give that to life, right? So the orientation of a conscious man is to orient himself in the way that it is in highest service and highest devotion to the feminine. Everything else is quite literally secondary. A man that is truly orienting himself to the highest truth, to the highest one, gives himself up freely. He dies on the sword. He dies by the sword. He gives his whole life for the feminine, for the woman in his life. I think that is really close to the truth, honestly. I think that is the highest purpose for a man and for the masculine. Let me explain to you why it has to be this way. It has to be this way because the masculine is what creates the container. The masculine is our inner energetic half of life itself that creates the safety, the protection, the container, the foundation for the feminine to stand on. Without having this at the core base of our foundation, the feminine has no structure to express from, because the feminine is essentially pure life energy. The feminine is the flow of life itself, of life force. That is the feminine energy. And without creating containment, without creating structure, without creating a solid foundation, without showing up with your full presence and your full love as a man in your woman's life, then your woman cannot become her highest potential. And also the man cannot become his highest potential, because the divine union goes in two directions. And so the argument for divine union, the argument for monogamy, the argument for you are my queen, you are my only queen, and I live in devotion to you and in devotion with God simultaneously together. That's what life's about, right? The argument for that as the highest orientation for ourselves in this reality is because of the fact that you both need each other in order to self-actualize yourself to the highest potential. And in that argument, in the stance of the monogamous divine union advocate, believer, that person would argue that non-monogamy is not our highest calling, because if you are to live in devotion to your feminine goddess, if you are to live in devotion to God itself simultaneously, then you can't really do that to the fullest capacity that you can possibly give if you're diluting your energy by giving yourself intimately, romantically, and being in relationship with two women at once, with multiple women at the same time. Because ultimately, we only have 24 hours in a day. We only have so much love to give. There's only one of us. And so unless you're going to like clone yourself into two people, then essentially what you're doing, if you have two people that you're in relationship at the same time with, is you're essentially just splitting your energy in half, right? So instead of giving your full love and devotion to one person, you're going to essentially now just give 50% of your pure love and devotion to one person and 50% of your pure love, devotion, energy, intention to the other person. I mean, that's common sense, right? It's like there's only so much energy to give. So if you're doing that, right, in this argument, essentially what you're doing is you're only going to be giving your wife, your queen, your goddess, half of your energy when you used to be giving her 100% of your energy. And obviously 100% of your energy doesn't mean that you're just like, you know, there all day, every day, just pouring into her. Like that's everything. That's the only thing you do into your life is just give to the goddess. You're just laying there in Savasana, just completely dead because Kali is standing right on top of you and you've just orgasmed and given your seed to the goddess, and now there's nothing for you left, so you just die in bliss, complete, fulfilled, as a man who gave everything to the goddess. Completely self-actualized and fulfilled in a man's life purpose, right? I mean, what else are we here on this planet to do other than just completely die empty, in stillness, in oneness, completely giving our all and everything to the divine feminine, to life itself. Hare Krishna, Hare Bo. Blessings, mahalo keakua. Thank you for this divine wisdom that is channeling through me right now. Thank you for this blessing and this miracle of life. Thank you for all the goddesses that have came into my life that I have done the best that I could to serve with my level of consciousness and my openness of heart and my clarity and connection to God at the time. I'm so grateful to be here in this life right now. I'm so grateful to be connected to this divine wisdom, to be connected to God. I'm so grateful to be living my life to my highest calling and have had worked through so much trauma, to have chosen as a conscious being this path, to walk this path every day, choosing to become my higher self, my better version of myself, and to continue to choose this path even when it wasn't clear, even when the path wasn't laid out for me, even when I had to do it all by myself, but I had you, God. I had the Father here with me, and I just give thanks and I overflow this abundance and this gratitude to everybody who's watching this transmission right now. May wherever you are, may you be so blessed and highly favored. May God bless you in your life with goodness, with prosperity, with happiness, with bliss, with well-being. May you have everything that you need. And may you remember that who you truly are on this planet. May you peel back the layers and have the courage to open your heart wider and discover who you really are and who you're meant to be and how you're meant to live and serve in this lifetime. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Ashe. Amen. Ah, mama ua noa. Take a sip of water here. You get what I'm trying to say? Do you feel the vibe? Do you resonate with the energy that I'm emitting right now? Are you not? You know, I'd love to hear how you think. Leave a comment in the description down below. And if someone needs to hear this message, if this message uplifted you on your beautiful day, on this universal plane right now, wherever you are in God's beautiful creation, then smash that like button, share this video with a friend. I'd love to, and leave a comment down below, because I'd really love to hear what you have to say and how you synthesize reality, because I am just one man doing the best I can on this beautiful planet, in the beautiful island of Oahu, in the beautiful kingdom of Hawaii, a land and a people and a nation that lives perpetually in righteousness with God and with Pachamama. 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 Yeah, Pachamama. All right, so you guys want to hear the opposite argument? So we've established why somebody would believe that the righteous thing for Aubrey Marcus to do is to be in a monogamous relationship with his wife and be in full devotion and love to Vailana. And we've established why, in doing so, how it would be supportive for Vailana to thrive, how it would help her to self-actualize and become the highest version of herself. So now I want to get into the opposite side of the argument, right? We don't live in a world always of black and white. We live in a world of nuance. And so there is another perspective here that we can hold, and I'm not projecting onto anybody that I feel like I know the answers, because all I can speak of is what's right for me. I can only speak of what my truth is, right? I can't speak of what anyone else's truth is. I can give my opinion on what I think is right or wrong, but ultimately it's up to them. It's up to the individual to work out their karma and, align themselves with spirit, save their soul, right? I mean, yeah, you can't be interfering too much with other people's karma, But the opposite side of the argument is, essentially the non-monogamous side, right? So polyamory is a thing, ethical non-monogamy is a thing, and it's a thing that people choose to do because they feel like it's in their highest good. So what I was saying, guys, is that people choose ethical non-monogamy because they believe it's their highest orientation. It's as simple as that, why else would they do it, right? I mean, if they're a spiritual person and they want to do the right thing, the moral thing, right? They want to do what is best for everybody involved, then they're going to orient themselves in a way that they feel is their highest calling. So what is the argument for ethical non-monogamy? Well, I think what ethical non-monogamy, and we can define what ethical non-monogamy is, it's essentially being in anything that's not monogamy, right? So it's essentially having multiple partners, multiple lovers. In Aubrey Marcus's and Vailana's case, essentially what they did is they opened their relationship, they switched up their container from being a monogamous relationship, which was just Aubrey and Vailana, into being something that is more in the realm of open relating, right? So they met this girl, Alana Beale, and they both ended up hanging out with this girl. And over a period of time, what probably happened is, they both started to really like this girl. I don't think it was one-sided, and I think a lot of people, probably have this underlying subconscious projection that essentially, it was not consensual on both sides, right? And that's just simply not the case. Look, Aubrey and Vailana are married, and they're solid, guys. Their relationship is probably super solid. I don't think that there's any reason to assume that their relationship is not, is not solid, right? So what probably went down is essentially, they're all hanging out, they're living their life, they're enjoying life, they're going to Burning Man, they're having fun, everything's good. Life is good, right? They're living their best life. They're living in their highest timeline. They're embodying their higher self. Life is amazing, right? So they're hanging out. They meet Alana. Now they're all hanging out together, right? The three of them, they're all hanging out together, and they're all having a good time. They're having good times. They're going to Burning Man. They're having dinner together. Alana starts staying over at their house, they start having some fun. All of a sudden they're like, look, you want to have some fun? Let's have some fun, right? What do adults do at night? Guys, how old are we here? What do adults do at night? Let's be real, right? Let's be real. What do even monogamous adults do at night, right? Humans are gonna frolic with each other, okay? It's just what humans do, right? Monkeys are gonna touch each other and they're gonna say, this is fun and this feels good. Now, I don't know their relationship. I'm not them. All I'm saying is what probably went down is, you know, they started having fun, right? So they're all having fun, and Vailana's in there too, right? So it's the three of them, they're all having fun, they're connecting, they're loving up on each other, and it's good, you know, it's feeling good. They all have a great experience. Alana leaves, she goes back to her life, right? Whatever she's doing as a conscious sovereign woman, you know, 28 years old. She's apparently a badass 28-year-old, so she's solid, right? Guarantee. She's solid, she's sovereign, she knows what she's doing. You know, she's not like some young, dim-witted girl that, you know, doesn't know any better. She's 28, guys. She's lived through tons of experiences. She's hanging out with Aubrey Marcus, Vailana Marcus, and their entire community of some of the most high vibrational spiritual people that we have on our planet right now. So this girl is no fool, right? So she knows what she's doing. They all know what they're doing. And they keep seeing each other, right? They keep loving each other. And because they keep loving each other, it's like, well, what are we doing, right? Because you eventually get to that place. You just do, right? So they were seeing each other, they were having good fun, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, we're seeing each other kind of a lot now. Okay, well, shit. Well, me and Vailana, we're married, right? So, now what is this, right? What did we just step into? Because it's like you can't just say you're monogamous when it's like, you know, to what degree, right? And so what happens in non-monogamy, monogamy, what happens in conscious relationships essentially is couples, and you know, take this as a grain of salt. I'm just sharing my experience. You know, I would love to hear from your experience too, and what some other experts would have to say about this. But essentially, you know, couples have an agreement, okay? And when you're in a relationship, especially a marriage, and you're in this long-term committed relationship with that person, you have these agreements. And depending on the relationship, the agreements are different, of course. So some relationships are very closed containers, right? So your traditional Christian, I guess, monogamous relationship, I don't know, I don't even want to use the word Christian, but it's like, you know, what is normal in most people's consciousness on what's okay in a relationship is like, this is your person, and that's the only person that you can love. And by love, we mean that's the only person you can touch, that's the only person you can kiss, that's the only person you can have sex with. Yeah, that's it. You can only basically give your love to this one person. And of course, you love other people, right? You love your friends, your family, but it's all at a completely different level and usually lacks a lot of intimacy. This is how most normal people think, is like the only time that you can experience intimacy is with your significant other. Oh, give me 1 second here. I need to take a piss.
Not an intermission.
And in the main, they do not feature an intermission between Act 1 and Act...
And yeah, it's a good moment to have a word from our sponsors. Our sponsors on this channel is actually my business, highvibrationalbusiness.com. If you are a conscious being that wants to become your higher self, what you need more than anything else is a high vibrational business. You need a business that's going to allow you and empower you to become the highest version of yourself. And it's really important to have a high vibrational business because money, abundance, and prosperity, this is the master key for you to unlock. That unlocks all other dimensions of reality. Imagine what your life would be like if you had $5,000 a month coming to you passively through your high vibrational business? What would your life look like if you had $10,000 a month coming to you passively through your high vibrational business? How would you live your life if you didn't have to work for money again? How would you live your life if you had the full sovereignty and control over your finances in a way that actually supported you on your life journey and empowered you into becoming the highest version of yourself, the version of yourself that your soul came here to experience? Well, I want to support you in that mission. I want to support you in that actualization process of yourself and in you creating your dream life. So click the link down below if you want to be a part of our community and join our tribe. And let's just get right back into the video here. So, damn, what was I talking about? Shit. We'll get it back. We'll get them back, no problem. How's it? Way to go, bruh. Keep running. So, essentially what we were talking about with the non-monogamy thing is, here we go. Now we're back. So most people operate in a way where they exclude intimacy from every other relationship in their life other than their relationship with their significant other. And that's what most people think is essentially right. Now, people in the conscious community, people that are exploring the realms of consciousness and are thinking and feeling to themselves that there's more to life than, just what we've been told and what we've been presented. These people start to delve into different ways of experiencing life and experiencing consciousness. And so in relationships with others, what we go through is typically this shift in basically love, right? So what most people do in their spiritual awakening process and on their journey is they come to a point where they realize that they actually have the capacity to love more than one person, right? They have the ability and the capacity to love other people, not just themselves, and not just their significant other. And so if you have a significant other and you love them and you're intimate with them, but now you realize that you love other people too, then you get to basically decide for yourself, like, who are you gonna share intimacy with? And so what some couples do is they, maybe they say, okay, we love our friends, we love our community, and we're okay with hugging them, having long, intimate hugs with our friends, right? With our community, the people we love. And some couples, they say, well, okay, maybe we kiss them too. We kiss them because we like them, right? And then you can get into other realms, like kinky playing realms, right? Maybe we're okay with cuddle puddles. We're okay with just cuddling with other people. Maybe we're okay with dancing with other people. And dance is where a lot of things, I hope it's not too windy, I'm sorry. Let me get out of the wind. Dance, shoot, I really don't want to say this way because it's gonna make dance sound, I love dance. I think dance is one of the most sacred practices that we have and one of the most beautiful and powerful ways for somebody to become more of who they really are and who they truly authentically are, because your body keeps the score and your body is somatically like how you learn how to really engage with life itself, like a lot of people with love issues in their lives, they manifest from just like a lack of touch, a lack of connection that they didn't get to experience as a child. So, dance, connection, intimacy, touch, these are super important things, they're so important for our collective healing and our collective awakening. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, let's say, like when couples get into dance, right? It's like, okay, it's okay to dance with another person, right? It's okay to dance with another person. It doesn't mean anything, right? You're sharing intimacy with another person, but it's just a dance. And so you can be in a monogamous relationship with your significant other and you can go dancing, right? You can go salsa dancing, bachata dancing, whatever. And you can see your wife dancing with another man and having a good time, right? They're having a good time. So the same thing goes in the spiritual community with ecstatic dance and any form of dance, right? That is an example of a degree of openness in a relationship and an agreement that a couple makes with each other on what's okay and acceptable in their relationship. Now, let's take it all the way forward, right? So, because we're ranting on this for too long now, but some couples open up their relationship in realms of sexuality, okay? It's just what people do. Oh, I didn't even know that there was this beach here. That's so cool. Wow, this is such a beautiful spot. Oh my God. I'm not gonna tell you where it is because you gotta keep sacred spots secret. But there's these stairs here and they're going all the way down to this little pool where you can jump in the water and get the healing frequencies from the ocean, from our primary source of consciousness, from our sacred, beautiful blue water. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so like some people, they open up their relationship and they have intimacy and sexual connection with other people, okay? So they're married, you have a married couple and they're going to kinky parties or they're playing, or they invite a third person into their relationship and they all make love to each other, right? But the integrity of the monogamous relationship maintains intact, right? A couple can be like, for example, they could be like swingers and they could go and essentially have sex with another person outside of their relationship, but they can still maintain the integrity of their monogamous relationship because they don't actually have a relationship with that other person. That other person is just an experience that they had and shared together, similar to having a dance with a dance partner, right? People just see, sexuality in these ways. We have to bring this to light because it's like, this is just what's in the dark, in the night, in the shadows, for what, right? Now, the key distinction that we need to make here is there is a point in which that whole thing changes. And that point when it all changes is when one person, one couple in the monogamous relationship essentially begins to have a relationship with another person. And a relationship in which they're sharing intimacy and romance and connection together. It's not just an experience and that's it. In details, it's like, yeah, like they're having a relationship, they're sharing in life together, right? And that's when it goes into radical non-monogamy. That's where it goes into ethical non-monogamy. That's where you get into the field and realm of non-monogamy, is essentially when you come to the realization that you can love more than one person. You can love more than one person, and so because you have the capacity to love more than one person, and you're already in relationship with every single person around you, you're in relationship with everything around you, you're in relationship with life itself, because you come to that realization, then you begin to consciously rework and rewire your own agreements with intimacy and intimate relationships with other people and with your significant other. And so the argument for ethical non-monogamy is essentially that we all have the capacity to love. And because we have the capacity to love, what it means is that we automatically have the capacity to love other people. If we love ourselves, if we love God, then we can love everyone and everything else. And so because we can love everyone and everything else, it begins to dawn on us that, well, I guess we can technically play with this a little bit, right? We can shape our reality a little bit. We can reconfigure the visuals, the blueprint, how it looks, what we do, what we play with, you know, where we go in our realms of consciousness. And so there is a timeline. I mean, there has to be. I don't really actually know the answer to this, which one is the highest, right? But in this moment, we're arguing for the sake of non-monogamy. So the non-monogamous person would argue that because you have the capacity to love other people, then you don't have to just give your love to one person. You don't have to just give your love to your significant other, and you don't have to just be in one relationship with your significant other, because you're already automatically in relationship with every single person in your life to some degree, right? So why wouldn't you want to experience more love? Why wouldn't you want to experience more connection? And why wouldn't it theoretically be possible for you to engage romantically with two women and impregnate two women at the same time, and for that to be a loving and holistic thing that's nourishing for all people involved, that's, you know, like, helps all parties to become the highest version of themselves? Why not, right? These are conversations that we get to have in 2025. Do I need one wife or do I need two? What a funny time to be alive. What an absolutely hilarious situation we're in right now. Oh man, I guess I could just talk about this stuff all day. You guys want me to keep going? Because I can keep going here. I want to talk to you guys about this situation from our core beliefs and our core perspective, right? So if we take it to another layer, we already established this higher spiritual concept, right? The monogamous person with the orientation to God is going to think that they need to be in pure monogamous devotion to their woman, have one partner, and just give everything to that relationship. The non-monogamous spiritual person attuning themselves to their highest good is going to believe that we have the capacity to love other people and that we can open our relationship and have more creative, expansive relationships with multiple people, whether we have sex with them or not. Okay, so we have those two perspectives there. I want to present the case that a lot of what we deem as right or wrong, a lot of what we even feel on a subconscious level is right for us, has a lot to do with our subconscious blueprints on how we were raised, the society that we grew up in, and the collective culture that we experienced in childhood. And so for a lot of us that were raised in the West, in Western civilization, we were raised under the collective consciousness of the nuclear family, right? And under Christian, you know, like biblical Christian religious values, essentially. And so what that means is we have on our base consciousness, on a base level, we have a very big blueprint, like a really strong subconscious belief that we're supposed to just have one wife and we're all supposed to just live in one family, and we have our kids and a white picket fence, and that's like the optimal way to live life, right? What we understand now, collectively on a conscious or subconscious or level, what some of us understand is that that's not the only way to structure a society, and in fact, it's not really working. And it hasn't been working for a while now, because it only worked for essentially the boomers, that generation there, And we're living in a time right now where inflation is just through the roof. And people that are just working regular jobs can barely even afford to have one child, let alone 2 wives. I mean, most people just can barely afford to get by, right? And so we're starting to realize more than before that this road that we're on collectively is really unsustainable. And we didn't evolve this way. We evolved from societies and civilizations that lived in community with one another. We lived in community with one another, and we all helped each other to thrive as a unit, as a tribe, right? They say on average, humans thrive best in tribes of 50 to 150 people. That's your base. That's where you come into your full power, because you can't do this life by yourself. And because we're coming to this realization collectively, we're beginning to look into and try out different ways of orienting ourselves in communities. You know, that's part of the reason why I have my community, right? highvibrationalbusiness.com and the High Vibrational Community and High Vibrational Tribe, because I'm attracting and aligning with high quality people that are in my resonance, that we're in the same resonant field, so we can all jam together, so we can all become our higher selves together, and we can all thrive. You know, we can buy land and grow our own food and live in our highest frequency and vibrational field. And so if you want to be a part of that community, click the link in the description down below. Join my newsletter to stay up to date with all this stuff. And I'm so grateful to just be here with you and share in this good mana and this good conversation, right? And I would love the opportunity to support you in your journey wherever you are. So yeah. Now, when it comes to community, you have to also understand that Aubrey and Vailana and Alana, they're probably in one of the highest frequency, supportive, aligned, divine, like, communities, if you can quantify it in that way, that we have, like, on our collective planet right now, right? Aubrey Marcus's organization, Fit for Service, has, like, the top spiritual leaders in the world. His brand, the guests that he has on his podcasts, these people are surrounded by high-level individuals. These people are living a different life than you and maybe me in my current reality, or a lot of people that are just living normal life, right? So their perspective and their views on life are going to be different than yours. We have to understand nuance. We have to understand perspective. And on an archetypal level, what I want to present here now is the fact that Aubrey Marcus is not just a representation of divine masculine energy, right? He doesn't just represent that. He's not just a thought leader. This man is also the representation of the king archetype. And it's not putting him on a pedestal, because I'm for sure not, right? I'm not going to put another man on a pedestal. The only man above me is God. I mean, come on, right? I'm not going to worship this guy just because he does a lot of ayahuasca and says a lot of cool shit out of his mouth and has a lot of clout, you know, and spiritual clout, has a nice podcast. Like, that doesn't mean that this guy knows everything. That doesn't mean that this guy is more tapped in spiritually than me. And it definitely means that he's not more tapped in or spiritual than you. So, you know, you don't have to do any ayahuasca. You don't have to do any Burning Mans to be spiritual. You can be spiritual right now. You know, there's much more spiritual people than Aubrey Marcus. So, yeah, you know, but the point is that Aubrey Marcus is undeniably, you have to agree with this, that he is the representation, like, he's the embodiment of a king. Okay, he embodies kingly masculine energy. And this archetype of kingly masculine energy resides in every single man on this planet. It's an archetypal archetype, right, of life itself. And so in the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert and Gillette Moore, they present the 4 masculine archetypes. I'm not going to get into all of that. You can go and look it up. It's actually free on YouTube, the audiobook. It's an amazing book. It'll completely change your life. One of the archetypes is the king energy. The king energy in every one of these archetypes has 2 shadow poles, right? There's the integrated masculine archetype of the king, and then there's the positive shadow archetype, which is the tyrant, and there's the negative shadow archetype, which is the weakling. These 2 distortions are the shadow side of the king energy. They're the egoic side of the king energy, and they fall into distortion and illusion and distraction. They are embodiments of not being in true center, right? And so the weakling, the negative pole, is like the passive shadow archetype for the masculine. Now, Aubrey Marcus, in my opinion, he doesn't really exemplify the weakling in much of his expression. I don't think that he's not a weak guy. He's a very strong spiritual man. And so his potential to embody the weakling shadow pole of the masculine king archetype is not really there. Now, the opposite side, we have the tyrant. The tyrant is the positive side. It's the yang archetype of the masculine king, okay? So what is the tyrant? The tyrant is the archetype of the king that abuses his power and uses his power to warp reality and bend reality to his egoic will, right? The tyrant is willing to abandon the kingdom. The tyrant is willing to sacrifice his people, to do harm to the people that serve under him, the people that he was appointed to by God to serve the realm, right? If you ever watched Game of Thrones, what does Ned Stark do? Ned Stark serves the realm to the point of becoming beheaded, right? It's a king's duty to serve his people. And the king's job is to provide. The king's job is to provide fertility and blessings upon the people and upon the land. So if you are a king, then it's literally your archetypal job to provide fertility and blessings to the people. Blessings can become in the mode of voice, right? You can bless and anoint and lift up other people. This can also be done through your business. Aubrey obviously does this through his channels, And on the opposite side, we have fertility. So fertility, maybe fertility means to impregnate 2 women at once. I mean, that's definitely one way to see fertility, right? But what fertility also means is the abundance of the kingdom. So fertility means that the kingdom is thriving, right? In indigenous culture, in Hawaiian culture, when the kingdom is thriving, that means the land is thriving. That means the land is perpetuated in righteousness. It means we're surrounded by nature. Nature is God's home. We live in the Garden of Eden, as the biblical text would say. We bridge heaven onto earth. And we live in the kingdom of heaven now by pushing our consciousness, pressing our consciousness into reality and manifesting the Garden of Eden and heaven on earth right here, right now. That's the new earth. And what a lot of these spiritual influencers, what a lot of these conscious people and these abundance coaches and all these influencers that live in Bali or, I don't know, Austin, Texas or Sedona, what a lot of these people don't understand is they don't have any connection to indigenous wisdom. They don't have any connection to indigenous wisdom, and that means they don't have any connection to the earth, and that means they don't have any grounding into the earth axis. And that means they're off center, right? You have your connection above through your crown chakra, and that connection above goes directly to spirit, but you also have your connection down into the earth. If you don't have your connection down into the earth, then you're off center. And that is why indigenous wisdom is the highest truth. Indigenous wisdom is the true middle path. It's the path of balance with life itself. Indigenous knowledge is all about relationships. Indigenous thinking is all about relationship. It's about your relationship to life itself. And it's also very similar to yoga. In true yoga, if you look at the 8 limbs of yoga, yoga teaches you how to live pono, how to live balanced, centered, and how to be in correct relationship with spirit. So you're merging your soul with life itself. And when you come into pure harmony with that, you also come into the Tao. And when you come into the Tao, you come into Krishna. When you come into Krishna, you come into the kingdom of heaven and you become the embodiment of Jesus himself. Guys, life is a concentric circle. You have to realize that everything's connected to everything, okay? So the point is that the point that I'm trying to say is that Aubrey Marcus embodies kingly energy, and while he has the potential to become a tyrant, and I think that through his content and through some of the ways that he expresses himself, it looks, at least on the surface and on the outside looking in, that he does have a propensity to potentially embody narcissistic characteristics, self-aggrandizing characteristics, and be too attached to the attention-seeking of being the main character. And that essentially puts you into tyrannical energy because you begin to distort reality from God's will for you to your own will for your own self-aggrandization, right? So there's a potential timeline here where Aubrey Marcus is essentially distorted in his connection to God, which is why he thinks that he needs to impregnate 2 of these women, why he thinks he needs to open up his beautiful, divine, monogamous relationship with his wife, because maybe there's some underlying thing, some underlying karma that Aubrey Marcus has not dealt with yet, right? Maybe this underlying karma has something to do with always wanting more and it never being enough. And maybe that's also one of the traumas that has pushed him to become so influential in our world. I don't know Aubrey. I don't know what his samskars are or his gene keys or his astrology. He probably knows what they are. And the people around him probably know what they are. So, the real test of all this is just basically looking at the well-being of his community. The real test to all this is just looking at the overall well-being of his wife, of his family, of the people around him, and of his domain and kingdom itself. If his kingdom is thriving, if his relationship is healthy, if people are, thriving with fertility and blessings, then I think he's doing something right, But the idea of having kids with 2 women, that's like a long-term thing, man. That's a 20-year commitment right there, you know what I mean? And so another thing that we also want to think about, going back a little bit to the idea of community and support, what we also need to understand is that Aubrey Marcus, his community is solid, right? And so these people are in relationship with each other, but they're also in healthy relationships with all other people around them. They're in a healthy community. They probably have about 150 people in their solid tribe and inner circle, and all of these people are contributing to their well-being. All these people are people that they can utilize as resources to confide into, that they can bounce energy off of, so it's not just like they're only in relationship with the 3 of them, right? They're in relationship with a lot more people. And one thing that we really need to consider here is maybe it's not even about what's the best thing for Aubrey Marcus. Maybe it's not even about what the best thing is for Vailana Marcus. Maybe it's not even about Alana Beale. Maybe this is about the children, the keiki. Maybe this is about the future generation of humanity on our planet, you know? Imagine what it would be like if Aubrey Marcus impregnated these two women. I gotta say that I think there's a potential timeline where those two kids, or maybe 4, or maybe 10, or maybe 3,000, if Aubrey wants to go full Ghengis Khan, there's a potential reality where those children become some of the most tapped in, best, powerful spiritual powerhouse children that we've ever seen on this planet. Bruh. Because if those kids get raised by Aubrey Marcus, by Vailana Marcus, by Alana Beale, they're also going to be raised by Dr. Joe Dispenza, by all the other highly spiritual, influential people on our planet. They're going to get the best education, the best opportunities, the best housing, the best ceremonies, the best shamans, the best therapists, the best food. They're going to have the best opportunities that any human has ever had to experience life on this planet. So from that perspective, I think that might change something in the equation there. Because if you think about it from that perspective, I think Aubrey Marcus got to be impregnating more women, man. Aubrey Marcus has got to be impregnating more women. I mean, two, come on, bro. You're aiming small, son. You're aiming small, my brother. You gotta go for 10. Start with 10, and then from 10, you 10x the 10 to 100. I think Aubrey Marcus should have a whole village where he has 10 wives, and they each give him 10 children, and he has 100 offspring, and he takes them into on it dojo with Joe Rogan, and they all just work out together, and they basically go to spiritual school where they lift kettlebells with gorillas on them, and they each start their own podcast from the age of 5, and they have like Aubrey Marcus Offspring 1 podcast, and together they just repopulate the consciousness on this earth, and they help us to break free from the matrix and the illusions of darkness. And all together, Aubrey Marcus's tribe of offspring will help us defeat sentient AI and the robots that are coming to take over our life. If you liked this video, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and leave a comment in the description down below. My name is Thor, Motu Dyrensborg. This is the Thorganic experience. It's my honor and privilege to be here with you. Wherever you are in your life, may you be blessed, may you be loved, may you be highly favored, and may you continue to do the best that you can to align with your highest timeline and your highest frequency. And I will see you on the next video. If you want more of the vibe, there will be a video popping up here so you can keep on vibing with us. Thank you for sharing your time with me, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, blessings, aloha, namaste. Shh.